Hello, everybody. It is about 5:30 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee on this Friday, October 17th. All right. What do we got going on today? We got Zelensky came to the White House today, begging for Tomahawks. His little comment about, like, we'll give you some drones for Tomahawks, not an easy trade, considering, while they've been effective on the battlefield, a multi-million dollar Tomahawk missile for a $10,000 or $15,000 Ukrainian drone is probably not a good trade for the United States. But yeah, so that was going on. You got the No Kings scrap going on tomorrow. I've already seen pictures of them with their white T-shirts, men in dresses. Or you got the agitators in Chicago going on still in Portland. So all the same stories going on in this No Kings day. We'll see how that goes again. Um, my gut's telling me you're going to see a little bit of little chaos in a couple of locations is my guess on this, considering what's been going on in Chicago, Portland, Seattle, etc., with all the ice stuff. So, anyway, let's jump right in here. That was like a quick update on what's going on now and into the weekend. All right, but this was a big news here. So, John Bolton was just indicted by a grand jury, as you know. Do you have a reaction to that, President Trump? I didn't know that. You're telling me for the first time I think he's a bad person. Too bad. That's the way it goes, right? He's a bad person. Yeah, that's John Bolton. John Bolton is a big time neocon, warmongering globalist who will never send any of his children to war. A pencil neck geek sitting behind a desk trying to wield the world for his own personal dollars. But now we know he was using his wife to filter information out and classified information. That's interesting. He also was begging to get into the Trump White House back in the first term and then stabbed him on the back, leaking information because he was completely opposite of what Trump was trying to do, right? He wants to bomb everybody, go to war everywhere. This is who John Bolton is. All right. And during Trump's first term, they were, especially because he was new to DC, new to all the players were on different positions and so forth. And he trusted the Republican Party, which was a big mistake. But they pushed people on him, exactly. It's like Ratcliffe in the CIA. Don't like that. I still don't like Rubio as this Secretary of State. Anybody who gets 100 no confirmation vote, I don't want him as Secretary of State. Give me the Gabberts, give me the McGregors, give me the RFK Juniors, give me the Tubervilles, the Rand Pauls when it comes to foreign policy. All right, so I'm glad that he got arrested if he did this. Okay, and I saw one tweet from an old clip of John Bolton saying that if Trump had classified information from his indictment with the classified information with the Mar-a-Lago and everything down in Florida, then, hey, well, you did it, and you don't have the power to declassify because you are an unelected bureaucrat who serves at the behest of the president, the only person who's in charge and has that power, the elected president, because he's accountable to the people via elections. And that is the reason why the founding fathers put all the power vested at the executive, because the president is head of the executive branch. His checks come from the Supreme Court, and the United States House of Representatives and U.S. Senate. All right, so hey, your own words, John. All right, you've been indicted. Well, now you're indicted for leaking it. So good, and I hope he goes to jail. Considering to be honest, I don't know you prove it, but this guy is partially responsible for hundreds of innocent people dying. Okay, so yeah, I don't want to see him to go for that anyway, but let's go with the classified documents. But anyway. So moving on, so a little economic news. So we have crazy economic news. You're hearing stuff right now about banks or credit to tightening, what Powell's going to do there, and everything going on. And we all know that the budget for September came in. They took in over about $200 billion more in revenue. That's a tariff effect. Probably also a little bit of less spending in certain areas and so forth. And if you didn't know, Vote is already cut and frozen $11 billion in contracts via the Army Corps of Engineers that were going to go to like Massachusetts, New York, California. And he's looking on a way to canceling that. So that would be good if he could do that. But this was a good piece of basic news that I follow because I like to follow the manufacturing. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's October General Business Conditions Index increased 19.4 points to 10.7 as orders and shipments picked up again. Figures issued Wednesday show readings above zero indicate expansion. Okay. The figure, which is prone to wide swings on a monthly basis, exceeded all estimates in a Bloomberg survey of economists. New York State factory activity expanded in October. And that's not New York State as in the factory, that is New York State, the Fed board. Okay? But you could see the chart ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. So that's good. Now it's month to month. So basically, if you don't know this, if it goes up above zero, it expanded. If a chart goes down, but it doesn't go below that line, it's still expanded, right? So if it goes back to the line, it means it's the same as the month before. Okay, so that's how this charting works. But that's good news because this is a key thing, right? With gold at $4,200 an ounce, I still believe that's affected with countries buying more, central banks buying more gold, which I think that's one of the reasons there. And I still think there's gradual de-dollarization going on over there, right? India's doing trade in yuan now with Russia, so there's less demand for that. China has dropped their debt to below United Kingdom. They were over $1 trillion. Now they're only about $750 billion. That's just one example of U.S. debt. So I think that's going on. And in order to do this, to survive a long-term de-dollarization, because that's what it is going to be long-term as BRICS unveils these systems and so forth. This is going to be a gradual thing. We'll never hit a rock bottom because of Europe and other countries that we are really closely aligned with, but it's going to have an effect. And manufacturing is a key element. Reindustrialization is a key element to minimizing those effects. Because if you don't have the fiat paper as much value anymore, you then need the tangible, right? We have to go back to where we were, right? We were a manufacturing superhouse. Then we went to $1 and an aircraft carrier battle group. Okay, well, we're going to have to start going back to where we were. All right. Moving on, a little politics here. So this is Trafalgar, Robert Cahaley's group, who's nails some stuff, close on others, but does a pretty good job of trying to find and guess the electorate. It's pretty fantastic if you think about it. This is Virginia. Now, if you don't know with polling going on, there's been a huge move. CNBC has seen a +4 move to the Republicans in the generic ballot for next year. That means they're down only one. That is not enough for the Dems to retake the House. So that's amazing. The betting markets have moved. Now, this is indication of a shift with only 3 weeks to Election Day in New Jersey and Virginia. We saw in New Jersey polls are showing tightening. Who knows what's going to happen here? All right. Just the record, so I can go on the record. I think Mamdani's a lock. So just saying that for New York City. So I'm not even going to talk about that. But here we go. Virginia Governor Spanberger, 47.5. Sears, 45.3. That's only 2.2. That is within any kind of margin of error or whatever you want to call it, okay, in that pool, okay? And undecided is a 6.4. Lieutenant Governor, it's tied with 7.8, right? Now, Attorney General, if you look at it, Mayeris, he's ahead. He is the sitting Attorney General now. But anyway, he is the Republican, and he's ahead. And he's ahead by 4 points here with only 5.9%. So this is an accurate poll. He's got it. Because there's no way 5% is breaking towards that. And he's so close to this 50% threshold. What's going on there? Scott Jones is a whack job. Okay, he had some texts out there how he wanted to kill Mayeris and his kids, and that got outed to anybody who's a decent or a true moderate Democrat cannot be going, whatever. And Mayeris has been doing a good job, so they're going to go there. So I see that being a role. There's really no such thing as up ballot effect, but maybe it could affect a couple people staying home. I don't know. I still give Spanberger the edge in this race. I think it's all going to depend on the Southwest Virginia. And this Attorney General's race could help drive turnout in Southwest Virginia up closer to 2021 levels where Youngkin won. And if that's the case, maybe it wouldn't be up ballot, but in terms of turnout, it could, who knows? It could be, but this could come to the wire. If it's close, it's still, I would consider a big Republican victory. Virginia, after the presidential election, has it, and they always go against the party that just won the presidency. Spanberger has been in the House, Virginia 7 for a long time now, former CIA analyst, really popular, but she has some text group stuff going on about that. So I don't really no, it'll be rough, but it's worth paying attention to. The tightening the races should affect the House of Delegates race, where it could Republicans cannot lose a seat. That would be a victory in my book if you're going back months ago and what to think. So any kind of a close race here is good. And I even think New Jersey, with the polling I've seen, there's huge undecideds. Chiarelli in some polls have been clearly winning independents already and doing very well against high prop voters, which if Trump voters come out who are low props, like in Passaic County that caused Trump to win, which is a high minority county, it's going to look good for Chiarelli. Because 2021 was more of a traditional election, low turnout on both sides. So we'll see what happens with that. But I wanted to share that polling with you. All right, moving in. Just in. Dr. Maha. Well, I guess it's Maha. Dr. Mehmet Oz confirms the President Trump's goal is to surge American birth rates. I know that what you're all thinking. You're probably right. There are going to be a lot of Trump babies. I think that's probably a good thing. You have to address we had 3.6 million babies last year. That's 500,000 less babies than we ideally would have even to replace our current population. See, this is what the progressive left, the progressive left would love. We don't have it. That's why the birth rates are low in the United States, particular in blue states, blue urban metro areas, and stuff like that. The progressive left, because having babies is bad because of climate change and all this stuff, and it's family. That means she's got to get married, and that's oppressive, and we know all the woke bullshit. Okay, and this is a problem in Europe. It's a problem in Russia. It's a problem in the United States. It's a problem in Western cultures not having enough babies. So what they would love is babies down. That's why they love abortion so much, right? And then we replace it, these people being born, with all these immigrants, right? And we dilute our heritage. We dilute our nationality. We dilute our traditions. We create a dependent class, a permanent underdependent class. And there's your voter base, and there's that. And that keeps the elites in power in all traditions gone. You become like this globalist, institutionalized, multinational corporation, 1984 world where they're in control with all the money and power, and everybody else is just some QR code. Okay, so this is a key thing. Okay, immigration, stop, babies up. Let me repeat that. Immigration, stop, babies up. You need certain talent, bring our base up. We don't need to steal other countries' talents. We want their countries to do well so we can have an optimal trading and relationship system. That is the formula. So I thought I'd share with you because this has been a key factor that I've been harping on for 20 years. It's been babies in the West. All right. So, the only good thing is that it's lefties that aren't having babies. But anyway, for the most part. So, moving on. Okay. So, Robert Barnes put this out after retweeting for DD Politics. This is from the Spectator magazine. Stripping Trukhanov of citizenship is an outrageous attack on democracy. Okay, Zelensky's attack on Odessa is a step too far. So Robert Barnes says, most anti-democratic, anti-freedom, anti-Christian leader in the world is Zelensky. I agree with that 100%. Now, what is he referring to? If you don't know, the elected mayor of Odessa has been kicked out and is basically under complete military occupation there, throwing everything out of the window. An elected leader. This is par for the course with the Ukrainian government that you don't hear about the West. But what's interesting about this is this is a globalist pro-Ukraine publication. Okay? So they're admitting what's going on. Even a step too far. It is a step too far, but this isn't par. Like shutting down the Ukrainian Catholic, Orthodox Church, okay? If I see one more video of some poor kid getting beat up and thrown into a van for recruiting, there are thousands of those videos out there. You just boom, 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 boom. It's just nonsense, this regime. And the fact, because of all these Rutas and Vanderlines and these globalists, pushing this whole war scenario in there, in the West, just these publications just right in the pocket of the intelligence community and these globalist leaders and everything like that. You don't see unless you look for it, unless you know the sources to go to get this. Now, these videos are in all over the world. Okay? All over the world. Other international publications, whatever. So when you just add it up, you just know. Conscription age up to 60. can't leave the country, press gangs, no elections in 2 years now. Who's Democrat? Shutting down the church that's been there forever. Okay, give me a break. So this is really Zelensky and his regime and who he represents even more. And the thing of the matter is, personally, I don't believe Zelensky. He's in it for him. He's been bought off, puppet by some, he's just a puppet. So, but that shows you the kind of person he was. Just remember, he was an actor, dancing around on this show he used to do, whatever. So, anyway, I thought that was a good tweet and had to point that out. So, this is a quote from Mr. Merz, Chancellor of Germany. Okay? So, we want to use the frozen assets of the Russian central bank more effectively to provide Ukraine with a total of about 140 billion euros in additional interest-free loans. These additional funds should be used to exclusively for armament and paid out in cash, not the medical of all the wounded Ukrainian soldiers, but I digress. This would ensure Ukraine's military resilience for several years. And ladies and gentlemen, to be absolutely clear here as well, we want to do this not to prolong the war. We want to do this to end this war as soon as possible. It's insane. So he's implying that stealing Russian oil, point one. Germany, United States, all of these countries are not at war. Technically, Russia has never declared war on Ukraine as well, but that's why it's an SMO and it's a different and that for Russian law. But we'll leave that alone, okay? We're not at war. So we're going to take a country. Okay, now keep also this in mind. Europe, 7 European nations still take Russian imports. Keep that in mind. They're going to steal another country's, not freeze it, steal it. Now you know why countries want to. India goes, whoa, okay. Trump threatens India with sanctions, with tariffs for buying Russian oil. By the way, while not doing it to China, because they have more leverage on us. And India knows that. And then India also yesterday, the foreign minister or spokesman for was pointing out, why don't you sanction or tariff these European countries that are still taking European Russian gas and oil? So he's pointing out the hypocrisy. And then you don't do China because they have leverage on the United States. Then you have the whole rare earth thing or whatever. But I want you to understand this. We're stealing their assets. It's never been done before. So a country like India says, you're going to tariff me now. So if I do something else you don't like, you're just going to seize my overseas assets. That is why these countries want off the dollar. You're using your stewardship as the prime reserve currency to advance your political agenda. And against one that is a trading partner, a member of the Security Council, that you are not, that these countries that want to steal this money are not at war with. It sets a bad precedent. So that's what's going on. That's why Russia and China, Russia and India are trading in Chinese currency, yuan, because U.S. can't get access to that. And that's what they fear. 39 countries under sanctions by the United States government. Okay? So once they figure out what to do with the excess currencies, okay, because that's what happens when you buy and trade. You buy their currencies and figure out a way to distribute equally. They've figured out gold is the key behind it. And then BRICS is coming out next year with a swift alternative. They have, China already has theirs, Russia has theirs, but where it's all linked. And then they're done. They're like, as these treasuries in our central banks come down, we're not buying anymore. We'll buy more gold. Okay, well, just enough dollars for our trade with that country. That's it. And that's the spot. That's why I like the reindustrialization, because that's where we're going. And it's crap like this. And who is Germany? If they were really afraid of Russia, they would be arming up. They are not. They promised 5% of GDP, which they will never do, by 2035. All right, so the next thing. So not only is that a bad precedent for the world and will accelerate de-dollarization, okay, and create more enemies and more countries that hate the United States, okay, they're going to use it. He makes his comment. Wait, where is it? These additional funds will be used for armament. Armor is their problem. Drones are the king of the battlefield right now. But it's manpower. No training. That's their problem. Okay? Okay? That's their problem. Okay? And you have to build these armaments. You have to do that, okay? They are losing positions all along the front, okay? And they're losing men all along the front, okay? So I don't understand how where these. We've given away so much to Ukraine, and so is Europe, okay, and to Israel, okay. We can't keep up with the Russians. So even is this equipment built yet? If it's not, who's to know? And Russia started pummeling their power grid. They're down to like 40. They're down to like, well, what is it? 60% of their power grid is inoperable at this point. All right, Putin held off on that, from what I understand from last year. Let's see what Trump does, whatever. But they started pummeling the crap out of it. Okay, the Ukrainian media and government are telling people prepare for a rough winter. So, and this crap here, to be absolutely clear as well, we want to do this not to prolong the war. So, of course, it's prolonging the war. Of course, it's prolonging the war. Okay, because you're going to have the weapons, and it'll just fight till the last Ukrainian, and it will prolong the war. It's not changing the course of the end of the war, but it will prolong it. Okay. Okay, we want to do this to end the war. So how are you going to end the war? You're not going to win. I don't care what you do. Okay, Ukraine is not going to win without direct NATO, whatever. So the only way this war ends is it's not hard. This has been the case forever. Okay, neutral Ukraine, no threatening military, i.e., the United States, NATO, in Ukraine on Russia's doorstep, and primarily the Donbass regions under Russian control. Okay, Donetsk, it's almost there. It's done in all my videos. The map. We got like 4 more cities left. 3 in one spot and Pokrovsk in the other. Zaporozhye and Kherson are 70% in the bag, and Lugansk is 100% already. It's okay, with Donetsk being like 85, 90. So they'll just continue, slow and steady, to take that territory. So they don't want to govern Western. Now, if no deal is made, whatever, I believe they will go to the Dnieper River for their natural. They are not going to go, I don't think, west into Western. They have no, because that's where the true Ukrainians live, and the ultranationalists come from, in the old Lviv area, in the Galician area. Okay, they never intend to. And if they now know that the Russian population is outside of Ukraine, they're not voting the way they used to, where it was like a 50-50 split, more pro-Russian to the east and more Russian hostility the farther west you get. Okay, but that voting dynamic has now changed, because a lot of those millions of those people are now living in the Russian Federation now. Okay, so they know Ukraine probably at one point, at least Western, is definitely getting up in NATO. So they're going to want that buffer. Okay, so that's there to make sure every Russian is not living under Ukraine rule, and that's it. So instead of the line being here, it'll move a little bit further that way. Okay, and that's it. If they agree to neutrality in their constitution, agree to it, and no foreign troops in all of Ukraine, I think they'll stop at those 5 oblasts. That's it. If Ukraine were to pull out of the last remaining territories of those oblasts, those 3 remaining oblasts that they're going to lose anyway, and say, you know what, we will never join NATO, and foreign armies will not be here, and we will be neutral in the style of Austria, Russia stops. That's how you end the war. Okay? We have leverage on Ukraine to stop the war. More so, though, on Russia. So you want to do that, put pressure on Ukraine. But we don't, because of the globalists and the narrative, the false narratives and everything like that, and the people behind the war. But, so this was Owen Matthews' Telegraph out of the United Kingdom. Trump's Tomahawk missiles will not rescue Ukraine from Putin's onslaught. Telegraph commentator Owen Matthews. Trump's Tomahawk missiles won't save Ukraine, but will drag the U.S. into a direct war with Russia. That's what Ukraine wants. Just like Israel wants the United States to bomb the shit out of Iran. The problem is escalation. The guidance and control systems of the Tomahawks use secret Pentagon data and satellite guidance from launch to target impact. Their deployment in Ukraine would mean not only the presence of American technical personnel on the ground, but also direct U.S. involvement in attacks on Russia. This is not American personnel repairing a THAAD missile or an ATACMS or a Patriot, or even giving intelligence to them to train them to operate it, whatever. We probably do have people on the ground. I don't know that for sure. what my gut says in some of the stuff. But for the Tomahawk, it's direct involvement. And what I believe, that is why I believe Putin called Trump yesterday, wants the in-person, and I like that it's going in Hungary with Orban, one of the better leaders, people on our side. But that's it. And he probably, I don't know what he said. Zelensky would say, listen, you're not getting the Tomahawks till after we meet there, okay? But I think they're going to make it clear. If this thing's coming out of, and the U.S. is doing it out of Romania or NATO bases in Romania or Poland, Russia would have every right to retaliate against that facility where we provided guidance, direct role in attacking. And Ukraine's going to use it to attack civilian targets. With that, if they shoot 5, 1 or 2 will go to civilian targets, okay? And then 3 will go to real military targets, so the media will focus on that. And the reason why they would do that is so that to trigger such a heavy response from Russia that NATO would get in directly. That's why they attacked. That's why the Ukrainians attack the nuclear power plant all the time. That's why they went into Kursk. That's why they attack Rostov-on-Don all the time and those high rises and the civilians. They're trying to trigger a Russian attack to get NATO in directly. That's what they want. Okay? And we're just giving them that and putting our security on every life on the world at risk to give them Tomahawks. And it won't make a difference in the end of the war anyway. Okay? And this is the Telegraph. All right? Boom. This is the Financial Times, the globalist leader of economics for the elites of the world. What are the U.S. Tomahawk missiles Trump is considering for Ukraine? If the U.S. provides Ukraine with Tomahawks, they will most likely be operated by the American themselves. This is nuts. All right? They're land-based. They're sea-based. They can, which ones I'm not sure, can be nuclear tipped, but they have to be altered. Russia will always assume that, because if the Ukrainians have it, they can assume Ukraine did something to it. You just don't. This is just insane. A risk of not altering that's not going to affect the end of this war, but you're going to add more risk to everybody else. This is insane. And if Trump's using this as kind of leverage against Russia, I wouldn't play with that fun. All right, so. But here you go. 2 Western globalists papers pointing this out. Meaning, this isn't the F-16, this isn't the M1 Abrams, the Challengers, the THAADs, the Patriots, the ATACMS, the HIMARS. This is a different ballgame. So they're taking a different role than they had in the past, these 2 globalist publications. So they're sending a message. Whoa. And they're right, if that's the message. So that's my short little video for this Friday, October 17th. A little heated on that. We're going to see what goes on with the Tomahawks, how the meeting goes in Budapest. Going to continue to follow polling in Virginia, New Jersey. Any more economic data that comes out. I've been kind of tracking some stuff going on with liquidity and banks and all this other numbers that may or may not come out. So we'll see what goes. Shutdown continues, but hopefully we can keep cutting those things, all right? So I'll be posting on my, on my X at Patriot Planner 1 and on my Getter at Patriot Planner. Also, I'll be rooting tomorrow night for my Tennessee Vols against Bama, although don't like that one. But anyway, if you like this video, please follow, like, and share. All right? Have a great weekend. Go get yourself some pumpkin spice lattes and all that. All right? Have a good weekend.